Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today we're going back in time because today we are going to be doing a Reddit video. Yes, that's right, the return of the favourite. However, this is not going to be a conventional Reddit leak video. This isn't just from some random guy, and this isn't just some speculation for what's to come. Rather, this is some behind the scenes details from what's come before. Now, this has come from someone who had gotten stuff right during the CHIBNALL era specifically, and they go into some really interesting details with regards to production on the Chris CHIBNALL era, the handover between Chris CHIBNALL and Russell T Davies, and all this sort of stuff. And just to prove that this is legit, here is them basically predicting the episode Legend of the Sea Devils. They predict the director, Hei-Lu Wang. They mention Pirate Queen Zheng Yi-Seo, who was, of course, Madam Ching in the episode, and it is co-written by someone called Ella something. We know for a fact Legend of the Sea Devils was co-written by Ella Road, and this is the same person because they link that thread in this write-up. But before we get into it, if you could do me a tedious little favour, click subscribe. I'm not sure, how well this video will do, but any support is always appreciated. I think this is a really, really interesting post. I've just seen it circulate on Twitter, and now that the year is over, I feel like it's safe to at least talk about this because I think it's really, really interesting. But with that said, let's get right into it. Here are just some production issues I've been made aware of. Arrogant attitude with the handover, convinced they would make things better than the current team. Strevens, who was an executive producer on the Chris CHIBNALL era, will film 2 seasons back to back, so we've got one in the can. Lol, as if. So I assume this is in reference to the Russell T Davies era plan to film 2 seasons back to back in order for there to be a yearly Doctor Who content release, which, as we know, is in fact happening, pretty much. I mean, there's going to be a couple months gap between series 14 and 15 filming, specifically a couple of months apparently. I think October is when it's set to start filming, but yeah, so Strevens thought that idea was ludicrous, offering people in current posts the chance to stay in junior positions under people with less experience, which is pretty insulting, really. Incredibly late scripts. Far more than usual on this show, and that's saying something because RTD and Moffat had issues with late scripts. Once during Series 12, but also during the Series 13 filming run, they had to pause for up to 2 weeks because they didn't have anything ready to film. This was what people span out of control as being chaos in Cardiff, and CHIBNALL rage quitting as rumour quickly overtook facts. Man, chaos in Cardiff, what a throwback. I remember so many reports about that. But it's interesting to see that there might have been a granular bit of, something there. Obviously not to the extent that it was, but it seems that they were just on-set issues that were basically extrapolated into something far bigger. Wayne Yip absolutely hated filming Resolution. So this is the director of Resolution. Not just that the TARDIS interior sucks to film in, which is fairly public knowledge. He said as much as a convention. Now, I haven't found footage of him saying this at a convention at this point, but if I do, I'll throw it in, but I do remember seeing interviews of people saying that the TARDIS interior, particularly during Series 11, was difficult to film because they had all the pillars. So yeah, if I can find any sources for that, I'll put that here as well, just to back this up.
I mean, as much as I enjoy Resolution, apparently it went through a little bit of a thing. I remember Wayne Yip telling me that on day 1, they basically didn't have a script. They were waiting around for a script. And I think what I don't know where this came from, so take it with a grain of salt, but it sort of makes sense. But apparently it was, instead of Lynn sort of being the one taken over, it was supposed to be Yaz who was initially taken over. But that
would have added a whole different peril.
It would have added a whole different peril. But the Doctor Who crew was off in San Diego, and they had a pending date to actually plug the series. Speaking of Arwell's sets, the new TARDIS, of course, is something that I think out of all the 10 episodes before that, I don't think all the time spent in the TARDIS matches the amount of time that you spend in the TARDIS in your episode. What was it like to sort of shoot this brand new, colorful set?
It was different because. Yeah, I mean, it was in a way it was, the old TARDIS, the previous TARDIS set was incredible, and this was very different. It was a very different approach to TARDIS, which was great because again, it kind of just forced you to try and think about how to approach this.
But he wanted to walk away from the job when he read the first draft quality script he was given. Their words, not mine. CHIBNALL took him down the pub, admitted they'd fucked up by booking the gang into Comic-Con, which meant it therefore couldn't be Yaz's story as planned. So apparently, Resolution was meant to be Yaz's story, which is interesting because it was always kind of framed as this conclusion to the series, and there was a lot more going on with Ryan and Graham than there ever was with Yaz in Series 11, so that's really interesting to me. I wonder how the story would have gone, and literally bashed out a few new story ideas with him there and then. Yip had to cancel/give up 2 days shooting time to allow the script to be rewritten. He vowed never to work on Who again. Sam Hoyle, exec on Broadchurch but also Series 11, never came back to work on Series 12. Quit after a blazing row with CC, I assume that means Chris Chibnall, because the scripts weren't up to scratch. So yeah, Sam Hoyle was the executive producer on Series 11, or one of them, I think. And again, I want to stress now, this is not my opinions, this is literally just me reading what this person's saying. And the only reason I'm reading this is because they have a track record of getting these things right. BBC Studios think the current era is terrible and a disaster from a marketing and hype perspective. They wanted a season per year, which is also interesting because we now know, bearing in mind this came out 2 years ago, that Russell T Davies is doing that very thing. So I wonder if that was part of, I guess, the conversations surrounding this new era. Others at the BBC are also unhappy. I understand the head of BBC Studios fell asleep during a preview of Revolution, and execs just roll their eyes to high heaven when the show is mentioned. Charlotte Moore, BBC Chief Content Officer, said, "He's now so far behind with his writing, I don't know what to say anymore." Now, it's interesting because Charlotte Moore recently, she's the controller of content at BBC, I think, she had a quote recently saying how important Doctor Who was to them, so hearing her frustrations is actually pretty interesting here if this is, again, legitimate. Obviously, I can't 100% verify this, but I thought it was really interesting to cover. It's also interesting that execs were rolling their eyes during the Chibnall run of Doctor Who, because that's very reminiscent of how it seemed the BBC viewed Doctor Who back in the 80s. CC, Chris Chibnall, had to get in another writer, a female playwright, to write, or at least co-write one of the specials, because he was snowed under. The name was Ella something. I suspect Emma Carmen or Greenhill, but we'll see. This was actually later confirmed to be Ella Road. So yeah, I go into a bit more detail in this thread, which is the thread I showed earlier, about the second 2022 specials, which sounds like a bit of a chaotic mess as well. As others have said, it takes you away, lost an entire monster in editing. They originally had a scene of Noor Inayat Khan getting executed at Daku concentration camp, and we do actually have evidence of that, because there's actually a picture of the woman who played Noor Inayat Khan with the tag to go to the camp, which I can't believe they even filmed, to be honest. We all think that it's mad that the Spy Master, now they'll see the real you scene got it. I'm not quite sure why they filmed that. Can you believe it? Before an exec stepped in and said, no way, Dewan was absolutely cast last minute and had no clue how he was going to do the big Timeless Child monologue. He also said so in an interview. I believe this was the Timeless Children commentary. He said that he had to get consoled with Jodie, so I'll play that footage if I can find it.
One time I had, in the script, there was this like huge monologue that I have. It's like, and when I time doing it, it's like 3 minutes. There's quite a lot of dialogue, but it was written as a voiceover. So I thought, oh, maybe do I have to learn this? And I remember asking production, and no one got back to me. But as I'm going to Cardiff to film, I get a call from the AD saying, oh, you know that voiceover? We're filming it tomorrow. I was like, oh. And I said, I asked if this is going to be a voiceover. And they went, oh, you'll be fine. The director said, you can just have your script by the side if you want. We can film a bit. And we might not even use all of it. And I said, well, I don't work like that. I need to. So I felt a bit of a diva. And I was like, I just can't. I'll try and do some of it. So I ring Jodie and I said, Jodie, am I being a bit of a diva here about not, knowing this? And she said, kind of leave it with me. But the fact that she answered my call when she's got a kid as well, and she cares about my happiness, really meant a lot for starters. But basically, when we went on set that day, she made sure that scene was not filmed to allow me the time to do it.
Wow.
And I just had so much respect because she doesn't, with the amount she's got going on, she doesn't have to do that, and it's that kind of stuff where I was just like, and people don't really know that a lot about, you can see what she delivers on screen, which is amazing. But
so yeah, this is all actually quite substantiated. It's really fascinating to kind of actually get what seems to be a behind-the-scenes look at kind of the operations of this era. Obviously, I'm not breaking anything new here. This was released 2 years ago. But I find it fascinating because I haven't seen many people talking about this. And it seems now, with hindsight, pretty much 100% accurate. The BBC were happy, they wanted a series per year. In steps Russell, says we're going to make a series per year. Sea Devils being a chaotic mess? Yep, that was pretty much the case. And there's evidence for a lot of the other things cited here as well. I think this is probably legitimate. Again, I'm not trying to, sort of let any personal feelings on the era bias my reporting on this. I literally just wanted to show you guys this, and I think you guys can come to your own conclusions as to what this reflects. Again, I'm sure that there's a lot of this that happens on every show, not just Doctor Who, but it's interesting to get a peek back behind the curtain to kind of see, oh, maybe things weren't as sunshine and roses as they were presented back in the Chibnall years. Also, just a quick note in editing, I believe this was the same account that reported the Ace Antigon for the Centenary information, and the reason why, if you're curious, the account says it's deleted, that's because the account was deleted from Reddit shortly after all this came out, but the threads still exist, I guess. I'm not really sure how Reddit works, but I can put a link in the description to prove to you guys these things do still exist. But, nonetheless, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like, comment down below your thoughts, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.